Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future. Because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to episode 32 of the Tech Intersect podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and today I welcome Jumoke Dada to the show. She's one of my favorite people in tech, and after listening to our conversation, you will know why. So a bit about her background. Jumoke is a forward-thinking individual with a proven track record for solving problems and supporting women and girls in tech and in life. Her professional career spans 15 plus years and includes working in corporate information technology as an application developer, a business systems analyst, a project manager, and all of this even though she wasn't even drawn into science and technology until college. In addition to being a trained technologist, she also has a knack for strategic marketing and a deep and abiding interest in entrepreneurship, which is best expressed through her company, Signature Red, that provides technology and strategy consulting services. She also runs Project ALOE, a beauty drive and send-off event for college-bound girls through her 501c3, which is Signature Red Cares. And she hosts one of the best tech conferences in the world for women of color. It's called HUE Tech Summit, and we talk a lot about it because it's coming up this fall 2020, and it will be virtual because of COVID-19. Okay, time to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. Okay, today I am so excited to connect with Jumoke Dada, this dynamic tech maven. That'll make her blush and be irritated with me for even saying it, but we're in different places quarantining, so she can't get at me right now. So this dynamic tech maven is best described as a technologist, social entrepreneur. Her sweet spot lies at the intersections of innovation, entrepreneurship, goodwill with a healthy dose of girl power. I love that. She also is very serious about her education. So she holds a BS in computer and information sciences and a real estate certification from Temple University. She's also a certified Scrum Master. I have no idea what that is, but that sounds very important. She'll tell us what it is. I'm tech adjacent, so I know that's very important in the tech spheres. Her technical experience includes corporate work as an application dev, a business and systems analyst, quality assurance tester, a technical project manager, and as principal of Signature Red, which we'll be talking about today. Very excited for you all to hear more about that. She provides technology and strategy consulting services to companies. She also creates tools and resources for women interested in careers in technology. That's how we met. She's created the Tech Women Network and also the HUE Tech Summit, which we'll definitely be speaking about today. But before we get into all the things, I want to formally welcome you, Jumoke. Welcome.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad to be talking with you, especially. I'm just really proud of you, and I'm so glad that we got to connect through you. And I know we'll share more, but I just wanted to kind of say that I'm really happy for you and all that you're doing through this podcast. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for that, and I'm glad that we're connecting and. We have, we're moving in similar spaces through the world, but we very rarely get to be in the same space. And that was pre-COVID-19. So this is our virtual space so that we can definitely connect here and really help others who are in a similar space because they're really trying to figure it out in this year. Mm-hmm. And I think part of figuring it out is knowing who you are, me knowing who I am, you knowing who you are, and really supporting and encouraging listeners to really find their way too, especially because 2020, because of COVID-19 and all the social unrest and racism bubbling up again and so many things going on that there's a lot of energy going out. And I've been spending a lot of time personally and professionally just recalibrating and re-energizing, finding new opportunities in the midst of ashes. And so to have a story like yours, an origin story, which I want you to share with the listeners about all the things that you managed to navigate to get to this moment in time, I think would be helpful for others to hear. So why don't we start off with you sharing your origin story of how you managed to find your lane in the midst of technology?
For me, everything kind of started with college, and I know to kind of go back there but that really is where my origin began. I skipped a year of school, so I was able to start college at 16, which was great.
Mm,
Because I started young, I kind of struggled with what to major in. Prior to college, I was very much like an artsy person, like into dance and music and drawing, and very, very artsy, very creative. And I wanted to work in the entertainment industry and just in marketing or in some capacity like that. But fast forward, I did an internship 1 year at a magazine in New York. I'm originally from New York. Um,
mm-hmm,
and I just realized that, I don't know, something about it wasn't for me. So fast forward, got back to school and said, okay, I need to figure out my major. It was showing that I was strong in math and science, and I knew that I didn't want to be a doctor. Dad was a microbiologist. My mom was an RN. I just knew the hospital life wasn't for me. Um,
mm-hmm,
so I didn't want to be an engineer, and I just decided on computer science. So that's where it started for me. I didn't really have any experience with computers prior to college, and ended up majoring in it. And I was the only African American woman to graduate in the year that I did. So that was just
mm,
amazing. So from there, I started working immediately. I actually found a job through a career fair before graduation. So I started my career in tech immediately after college. I started at an HR consulting company, working
mm-hmm,
as a developer for a call tracking system that they use globally. After a couple years, I had been the only developer there that from the time they implemented it until a couple years later. So I became the lead developer a couple years after college.
mm,
Fast forward, I started realizing that I didn't really love coding. I moved into a senior systems analyst role, and that's when I kind of learned about analysis and writing, and I then took a role as a business analyst, because I realized
mm,
that I enjoyed translating. I loved being the in-between person, like the liaison between the technical teams and the business areas. So that's my story. And through that, I started doing some testing work and eventually moved into project management. I just went through a period where I was just trying to figure out whether or not I should move back to New York or what. A company that I was working for, they were downsizing, and so they laid off a ton of people, gave packages to those that were senior, etc. And I was part of that downsize. And
mm-hmm,
when that happened, I said, you know, what am I going to do? Do I move back? Do I stay? And I just remembered that I always had this creative side of me that I never fully explored.
right,
Going back to that pre-college time, and I just knew that I didn't really like corporate IT. Everything that exists now for being a woman in tech, and the support systems, it didn't exist back then. So you were kind of
right,
like a lone soldier, and I just didn't see a career path for myself, like long term. I'm like, what am I going to ultimately end up as? What will I do? And I couldn't see anything for myself. So fast forward, when I got the package, rather than look for another job in corporate IT, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to start my own business. I think I want to do something totally different.
right.
So I then started Signature Red, and I went totally left. I started it as a marketing and event planning
Huh.
business, and I was helping women entrepreneurs, women that worked in corporate, but then had a side hustle that they were working on. And I did everything. I held professional development workshops. I did some very light PR and things like that. And social media wasn't really big back then.
Right.
So I did a lot of event planning. So fast forward, I started hearing more from the previous administration about women in tech, women in code, women who code. Where are the Black women in code? We need more girls in STEM. And I'm like, oh wow, like I didn't that it was a thing, or that they were looking for women like me. Here I am planning golf events, and they're looking for women in tech and women who code. So that was when the light bulb kind of went off that, hey, I think I should make my way back to tech, because something is brewing. And so that's what I did. So I pivoted Signature Red, and I moved away from general professional events for women to tech events. And
Mm.
I was recruited online and asked if I would be interested in being a technical project manager at a major company, entertainment company at that. So I said sure, and that's how I moved into consulting work. So I started consulting as a technical project manager, and then I was producing tech events on the side. So that's
I
my
love how I love how you're able to. It's when we usually use the word pivot, it's to you were in one lane and then you're going slightly outside of it, making whatever you do relevant for some other lane. So it's interesting to hear that the pivot was back to who you really are.
Mhm.
That's really interesting. Did you find that to be very rewarding?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because now I can see so clearly how I've come full circle, from being this way, or having these like ideas and visions that I just never had an outlet for when I was like hardcore coding, to now I can create what I think about, and I can produce it. So I guess some of what I didn't share as part of my story is how I started the Tech Women Network. So I mentioned that when I began my career early on, there just wasn't a lot of networks and groups and communities. Like now, you have so many options as a woman in tech, but it just didn't exist. And
Right.
I found myself looking for community. And I went to a tech event, and I saw all these women. I was be like, oh wow, like where did you guys come from? Like I didn't even know, and then that you all existed. And I started like Googling, like trying to find information on other groups, etc. And I just thought the information was everywhere. And I said, wow, it would be great to have one central place where women could go for resources about being a woman in tech, as well as connect with one another. So in 2017, I created the Tech Women Network for that purpose,
Hmm.
a space for women to find each other, connect. I spotlighted women, share resources, etc. But what happened is that as a result of that, I started doing like more public speaking and events and things like that. And I saw that there was a voice that was missing at a lot of conferences. I realized that, well, one, a lot of the conferences that I was attending was focused on startups,
Mm.
entrepreneurs. And two, when I did see a lot of, when I did hear about women's, opportunities for women in tech or events for women in tech, a lot of the women that were speaking weren't women of color. And so
Right.
I just started paying attention to a lot of the conversations, who was represented, who was not. And then I realized that there was a gap for women in corporate America that are technologists, or technical in some capacity. And fast forward, I had a dinner in the fall of 2017. I launched the Tech Women Network in the spring. Actually, it was in March of 2017. By that
Hmm.
fall, I had what I called the Hugh Tech Talk. It was a fireside chat and soul food dinner. And it went really, really well. But one dinner, it wasn't enough time for us to really talk about everything, like what we were
Right.
dealing with as women of color in tech, the opportunities, hindrances, everything. And from there, I said, we need a full day, we need a full summit, and I'm going to create the Hugh Tech Summit. And so that next May was 2018 was when I held
Hmm.
the first Hugh Tech Summit.
Outstanding. And the forum that you have provided, the platform, the opportunities to connect, not just on the business aspects and the educational aspects, and they are absolutely important, but the holistic approach that you bring to the summit just moved me so much.
Mm.
So not only the honor of participating, I would have been there anyway, besides speaking, just to be in the room with so many dynamic women of color and to see so many Black women in particular doing extraordinary things in the space, people I did not know existed. I knew because of my mom being a patent attorney, for example, and all of my aunties being, I was surrounded by a certain level of women who are focused in the space, either in law or tech. But that's 5 people, which is better than, to your point earlier, 5 is better than none, right? 1 is better than none. But then to take it that next step and to cross all states, I can, certainly outside of the United States, to come together for such a time as that, and the dynamic speakers, and also the other opportunities, getting headshots, getting H&M done. I'm a hair and makeup person, so pulling that all together and the summit and eating on top of it, the soul food brunch, like you did all of the things and you did them all so well that it just is a space that doesn't exist even now. So it makes it even more important. To talk to us more about Hugh, just where you've been and where you're going. I was going to save it a little bit. This is a good transition just to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on your plans for this year and what it looks like now.
Sure. So as I shared, the very first one was in 2018, and if I'm honest, that was planned in about 4 months, and the response was amazing. So fast forward to 2019, and that's the year that you spoke, and again, there's just something really special about the space, and I get this feedback I've gotten this feedback after each one, that there's just something about the type of women that come out to the summit. People feel like they leave with girlfriends. It feels like a sisterhood. It feels like a sisterhood forming, and everyone is approachable, from the executives down to the students. Everyone feels like they can speak to anyone. People aren't just booking after they speak. Like, you actually have speakers that stick around and go to other people's sessions and talk, and it's just a beautiful thing. So I know that it's something that I have to continue. I'm definitely impacted this year with COVID. We were supposed to have the 3rd summit in May of this year, but everything changed, and it was hard. It was a tough call because we got to work immediately after last year's summit because we wanted to make this year so amazing. And so this has been, basically 2 years of consistent work on this summit, and for everything to kind of just come to a halt, it was definitely hard. But safety first, and we've been paying attention to what's been going on. So at first, we just postponed it. We just postponed it to the fall and just said, we'll see, maybe we can still have it live. But that's just not the case. So we made the call last month to go virtual and to realign with Philly Tech Week. So the summit will take place at the end of September virtually. This is my first time producing something of this scale virtually, so I'm learning as I go. The 2020 speakers have been so gracious. They're like, whatever you do, whatever you decide, just let us know where. And I just feel that's just so encouraging, because there is unknown, for me with this. I'm not an event planner at the core, but I know how to produce it. So there's unknown, and so we're moving forward with the virtual summit. There's definitely some challenges because now there's so many things that are virtual around the same time, but I'm just trusting and believing that, we have a rock star panel of speakers, selection of speakers this year, and that we'll still be able to, in some ways, create that same type of experience just virtually. So it'll be at the end of September of this year.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of Tech Intersect. Our conversation will continue in a moment, but first, a word on an exciting opportunity.
There's a more cost-effective and time-efficient way to reach your leading-edge learning and earning goals to put you ahead of the stiff competition in this fast-paced, tech-driven economy. You need skills, credentials, and a fast track to a competitive advantage. You need it now more than ever, and I can help. Invest in the future you've always wanted, and in as little as 3 weeks, you'll be on your way to greater autonomy, control, and opportunity in your life. The Advantage Evans method puts you ahead of the curve with condensed, comprehensive online courses, curated content to leverage your current skills and expertise in order to succeed in the new economy, live coaching with me, networking opportunities, and a digital badge on completion. Upcoming courses include From Cash to Crypto, Buying Your First Bitcoin, and Register Right, Protecting Your IP, Brand, and Business. Ready for your advantage? Well, get on the fast track to learn and earn at AdvantageEvans.com.
And now, back to the conversation.
Perfect. I will be sure to drop all of the information in the show notes as well. And I'll follow up with you after this to make sure that Advantage Evans Academy is added to the list of sponsors, because I want to show up for you in the way that you showed up for me and the way that you show up for our community in particular. And I absolutely want to throw my hat in that proverbial ring to make sure that everything that you need, you have. And I have no doubt that you will have a successful event. I ran a virtual summit back in April, and we were one of the first. My business partner, Shantavia Johnson, and I from the Lit Brain Trust, we were one of the first to really just step out there and do a full-on virtual summit for basically more than half of the day. Have fireside chats and all of the production that goes into that. And that was for 100 people, not for the number of people that I envisioned for the third annual Hue Tech Summit. So, but everything that you need, your resources are vast. Mm-hmm. And the people who love you have a lot of goodwill out in those streets. So I'm sure that it will come back to you in spades.
Amen.
So one last thing that I want to touch on, in addition to obviously the work that you do in the tech space and what you do through the Tech Women Network and also Hue Tech Summit, is to go back for a second just to talk about an extension, a philanthropic extension of Signature Red, Project ALOE, and some of the work that you do for girls, women of color and girls as well. So I'd love to hear more about that and share that with our listeners.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, so Project ALOE, that is like my baby. When
I heard you like light up the minute that that first breath. I was like, she's in her zone.
That is, yeah, and I don't talk about it as much, but my company Signature Red, again, I started that back in 2009, and in 2010, I'm just a woman-friendly woman. Like, I'm big girl power, sisterhood, all of that.
Right.
So I had started, again, producing these events for women, and I wanted to do something for girls. And someone asked me if I wanted their curling iron or something, and I said, no, I got a ton of stuff under my sink that I don't use. And for me being an idea person, is, again, light bulb went off, like, wow, like if I have a ton of stuff, I wonder how many other people have a ton of stuff. And so I reached out to some friends to say, hey, like, what do you have that you're not using? Like, I think I'm going to do some sort of beauty drive. And everybody had a ton of stuff. Don't
even get me started. I just transitioned fully to natural hair, and I'm trying to find my way to products and all sorts of things. And some things you literally use once because they don't work for you, but they would for someone else.
Exactly. So fast forward, collected all of these products, supply, like hair stuff that was never opened in same packages, a ton of stuff. And I was trying to figure out, wow, like who should I give this to? What girls? And again, going back to me in college, I'm a first generation American. My parents are Nigerian. I was the first of their children to go to college here. And again, I said I was young and all these things. And so my parents were figuring it out with me. And I just
Right.
remember that time that I got to campus and I was not prepared. Like there was so many more things that I needed. And I just remembered us going to Kmart and like buying some stuff. And that's when the light bulb went off. Again, I want to give this to girls that are entering their freshman year of college.
Right.
I held a college send off at the local library, collected a ton of stuff that summer, worked with some hair salons, said, hey, if you don't mind collecting stuff, ask your clients if they can bring in toiletries, hair products, anything. And we got so many supplies. So I held that send off event, had a fitness instructor, hair care instructor, nutritionist, etc. They came out, they spoke to the girls about how to take care of themselves on campus, and then we gave them care packages.
Mm.
I did that consistently every summer. I said, you know what, this is going to be the way that I give back. And someone said, you should start a nonprofit. I said, well, I don't think I need to start anything else. Anything. They talked me into, that you should really should have a 501c3. So I started Signature Red Care. So I do have a nonprofit. It's called Signature Red Cares. Project ALOE, it's its main initiative. But the last one that I did was in 2017, and that was just a full year for me in a lot of ways. I launched the Tech Women Network platform. I lost my father that summer.
Mm.
That fall, I had there was just so much happening with me. And so what I did, and people don't even know this, is that the next year, that very first that next Hue Tech Summit, 2018, that was the first one.
Right.
Didn't do a Project Aloe in 2018 because I was tired from Hue.
Right.
And so last year, what I did was I invited girls, if they were going to college, to come to the Hue Tech Summit, and I would give them a care package there. So
Mm.
that's what I did. That's how I infused it last year. And my plan was to do something this summer, but no.
Right.
Yes,
Hashtag COVID-19. Right.
exactly. So Project Aloe exists. What the future of it will be is to be determined, but that is my way of giving back to girls that are transitioning from high school to college, living on campus. Everyone doesn't have a big sister. Everyone doesn't have
Right.
a mother, and this is just a way to provide some mentorship and some tangible resources to girls when they need it. Entering into college is very expensive. You have books, dorms, you have so many things that you pay for. So if we can give you a little starter package, then that's what I can commit to do. So that's my baby, Project Aloe.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. You're not going to have me crying out here on a Wednesday. That's what you're not going to do.
Please,
You will not.
I can't wait to.
Oh, that's really exciting. I'm so glad that we got a chance to fully explore that. I didn't know the full story. I think that's amazing. So, look, I could do this all day, but evidently, I must share you with the rest of the world. So I'm going to let you go. Tell the listeners how they can learn more about you. I will drop this information in the show notes as well. Go ahead and shout out how they can learn more about the Hue Tech Summit and the rest of your work.
Sure. So anyone that's interested, if you're a woman in tech, definitely join the Tech Women Network. That is the online platform and community. It's driving everything. The Tech Women Network powers the Hue Tech Summit. And you can just sign up, go to techwomennetwork.com and just create a profile. And that's it. It's really simple. The Hue Tech Summit, the annual conference for women of color, we do an open call for speakers every fall. Again, 2021 is TBD because we're actually hosting the summit in the fall this year. But just go to huetechsummit.com. There's a newsletter. You can sign up there. If you want to speak, we'll make announcements about a call. But again, a lot of things are on hold at this time. Project Aloe is on hold at this time. There's so much happening with colleges right now. There's just too much unknown. But definitely techwomennetwork.com, huetechsummit.com. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm Jumoke Dada on everything. I mix my personal life with my professional life on everything, on Twitter, on Instagram. everything.
Your IG game is very strong, very strong. I highly recommend the feed. Jumoke Dada, I appreciate you, sister. Let's keep rising and shining together. And I look forward to the next time we can be IRL. Until then, stay in that house. When you come out, wear that mask, and then I'll see you for sure. I'll see you in the fall, and then I will see you in real life, God willing, and the creek don't rise in 2021.
Yes, I can't wait. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thanks again to Jumoke for this illuminating and empowering conversation. I trust that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Remember, there is no wasted effort on this journey toward the fulfillment of your purpose. And you can be multifaceted or even considered a quote unquote late bloomer and still be right on time. Jumoke found a way to combine tech, marketing, event planning, and philanthropy to create opportunities for herself and other women in order to connect, to galvanize, and to elevate together. To find out more about Hue Tech Summit, head on over to huetechsummit.com. Final housekeeping notes for Tech Intersect. Please, please, please remember to like, comment, and share this episode and this podcast with your networks. I need you. Help me help you. And also let me know what topics you'd like to hear more of and who you want to hear from. Happy to have them on the show. All right, that's all for this episode. Until next time, continue to shine.
Stay in touch with host Tanya Evans via your favorite social media. On Twitter at TechIntersect and on Instagram via the handle TechIntersect. This podcast has been produced by Stephanie Renee for Soul Sanctuary Incorporated.